Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. Over in the tutorial request area, a forum member wrote in, how do you create a race track? And he gave a link to a site that shows how to create a race track in Blender. And he wanted to know, how do I do it in Hexagon? Well, Hexagon is not Blender, unfortunately, but I think we might be able to come pretty close in making a racetrack here in Hexagon. So first thing I want to do is enable the ground plane or the ground floor grid so I can see the profile that I'm going to sketch out here a little bit better. And I'm just going to swivel around to a top view like this. Or you can also choose, click on up here and choose top view if you want, but I'm just going to stay in perspective. I'm going to come up over here to lines, and I'm going to choose an interpolated curve. And I'm just going to create a very basic shape or profile for my track. I'm not going to try to create something, I'm not going to try to create some actual racetrack. You can do that if that's what you choose. So I'm going to start by clicking here. Now, if you count the number of lines on this polyline, I've got a number of 8, and that's because the range here is set to 8. I'm going to bring that down to 3, and I'm just going to create a very basic kind of kidney bean shape, I guess, something like that. And coming up here to the end, I'm going to click on this icon up here, close curve, and now it closes off my path. And so that is the basic shape. Now we will run into a few little problems here, and that has to do with inside curves. Hexagon currently does not possess the ability to proportionately scale down these inside curves as we start duplicating our profile here. And I'll show you what I mean. Well, all we've got is a path so far, or an outline. We need to create a path, an actual hard surface for our cars to race on. So I'm going to come up here to offset curve. Now currently I'm set to outside, and if I change these numbers you can see I'm affecting the outside of this curve. And the problem that we run into is this inside curve right here. If we try to increase the size of this outside curve, notice the geometry starts collapsing inward on itself. And if I choose inside curve, and as I start scaling down the inside of this profile, you'll see right up here and right up here, these inside curves, the geometry starts collapsing inwards on itself. So actually, to make things easier, that's why I chose 3 in the range for our polyline, because as crude of a shape as it is, only for now, as crude of a shape as it is, it will allow us to create larger sized offsets without the geometry collapsing in on each other. If the range was still set at 8 or 10, 12, 100, whatever, the points would start colliding with one another at a lower offset range. Say to here, if we had like 20, they would start collapsing inwards on themselves. But because we have a low number of points to start with, we can actually get away with scaling inwards a little bit more. So I'm going to scale in to about right there, and I'll validate that. That looks good. We won't be using any dynamic geometry, but the very first line that we created, the polyline, it does have dynamic geometry applied to it, so I'm just going to disable that, and we don't need that anymore. Okay, so we've got our race car path here. I'm going to select this outside path, and I'm going to use offset curve again, but this time I'm going to come outside, and I'm going to come in just about as far as I'm able to until this geometry starts becoming awkward, and that will work right there. Alright, so I've got my 3 lines. These two here, this one and this one, is the actual racetrack itself. This would be the side lines, and I still have to make some more on the outside, and I still have to make some more for the inside as well. So I'm going to select this inside one. Let's make sure I got it selected. And let's come to lines and curve offset. And I want inside, and I want to come just about as much as I can before the geometry starts collapsing too much and becoming unusable. I don't have much, so that's it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to select these. Actually, I need to select that object. Is it this one? Yes, that one. Select points. I'm going to select these points right here, and I'm going to bring them inwards. And I'm just going to kind of duplicate this profile here manually by moving these points around. I wish Hexagon had kind of a little bit more of robust tools, but it doesn't. I can, at least not yet. I'm still holding out that Daz hasn't given up completely on this program yet. There we are. Okay. Okay, before this starts getting too complicated with too many lines, I'm going to start connecting some stuff here. I'm going to come over here to surface modeling, and on this third tab here, this third icon here, we got ruled surface. And I don't, even though I've got this one selected, I don't think it really matters. I'm going to click on there, and then click the one right next to it, and the one right next to that, and the one right next to that, and then I'll hit validate. Now I've got a solid surface here. Well, I'm going to select this inner group here, which is actually what I intend to be the actual racetrack. Open up my tab here. I'm going to create a new domain. I'm going to select a different, create a different color for my racetrack here. So I'll select new, click on my little arrow here, and I'll rename it, and I'll just call it track, validate, and create new, and I'll make it a darker color. Click off, and now I can more easily see the various elements of this object here. Okay. What I think I'm going to do is select edges. I'm going to select this edge right here, actually the inside of my track. Come over here to vertex modeling and edge tools. I'm going to select this second edge tool. And let me find my little line here, my little arrow. And I'm just going to create a little inside path. Let's see what it looks like all the way around. That will work. Validate that. Select this point here. Give a little more space. Okay, well, I'm going to do the same thing to the outside here. Loop that, edge tool, click on that second one, and create an outside one as well. And it looks like we're having some problems here because I'm going to abort that, undo. I'm going to select these points here and move them over because that edge tool is having a difficult time creating that inner profile. There we are. And let's move these. This is one of the models that unfortunately requires a lot of manual effort. Can't rely on the necessarily can't rely entirely on the efficiency of the tools, unfortunately. Okay, now let's select this edge again, loop that, edge tools, and there we are. Now you see we've got a little bit better results there. Okay, let me try this again. Okay, there we are. Alright, validate that. I don't even think I need to. I'm going to move some of these points here around, and I will be right back. I'm just going to straighten everything out here so that the next edges that we select, we will have a little bit better job at creating our profiles without the geometry collapsing inwards on itself. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've kind of straightened everything out, made it a little bit more, made the lines a little straighter. Alright, first thing I want to do is select this inner, well, let me click off of that. We've got a hole here in the middle, and if this were a racetrack, this would probably be a grass area where motorhomes and repair shops would be. And it needs to be a solid object here in the middle. If we come over here and click on close and then validate it, we would probably run into some problems. Close, let me click there. And yeah, sure enough, we do run into problems because I'll select this inner area, and you see what it's done is it's created a solid object that spans this entire surface area, and that's not what we want. So to make life easier, I'm just going to select that one of the inner edges. I'll loop it and come over here to lines and click on curve extraction. Now that I have a curve, I can make it solid. Well, there's two ways to make it solid, and I'm going to show you the way which probably will not be the best, and that is using Coon surface. If I click on it, you see that's not at all what we want. It didn't enable our racetrack. It didn't do a very good job. So I'm going to Control Z and undo that. What I have found is when Coon Surface tool doesn't work well, I'll just click on Vertex Modeling, click on Sweep Surface, and I'll just extrude upwards or sweep upwards this curve. And any distance is fine. Validate that. Close off the whole thing. Come over here to select faces. Select the top face. Shift plus the plus key to increase that selection, and then just hit delete. And now I've got a solid surface here. Now I can Control A to select everything, and I will weld it all together. Now we've got one more thing that we need to do before we can start contouring this object a little bit more. We need to create a solid, larger area around the outside of our racetrack here. And this is going to be a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here. This will be the end of this first modeling tutorial, and I will finish up with a second one. So that's it for the first tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studio on modeling a racetrack. Thanks for watching. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.